Hello and welcome to Greg's Porch. Today we're going to be doing a rambling autistic deep dive into the AK-74, which is kind of an interesting topic. Ultimately, I want to talk about the difference between an AK-74 and an AK-74M. Excuse my cock and any background noise you might hear because I am outside. Okay, so in order to talk about the difference between the AK-74, which is kind of like that, and the AK-74M, which is kind of like that, we have to talk about the difference between Soviet-era AKs. Sorry, they're not all completely in frame. Soviet-era AKs, which would be these AKs, and the AK-100 series, which would be these two right here. Of course, you have the AK-74U, and you have AK-74, AK-74M, and this is an AK-102. Now, the astute viewer will notice that these two guns are actually Bulgarian, and they are. So I guess it's not actually an AK-74U. It's not actually an AK-74, but they are. And let me explain why. These guns are the Soviet-era guns. This is before the fall of the USSR, and it's before the 74M revamp that Russia did, kind of as the Russian Federation. So why are these guns right here? Why am I saying a Bulgarian is essentially the Russian guns? Well, it's because they are. Much like looking at a distant star that's really far away, you're actually looking back in time. So these guns, the Bulgarian guns, are actually an older technical data package that the Bulgarians had. Those particular guns were brought in by Arsenal USA, as was this one, as the SLR-104FR and the SLR-104UR. I'm guessing that the production date on those guys is somewhere in the 2009 to 2013 or 14 range, but regardless, the Bulgarians never received the AK-100 series data package. They are basically going off of 30-some-year-old blueprints when they made those guns. The Bulgarians, for those of you who know, make some of the best AK clones in the world. You know, these stamped guns that came in from Arsenal are some of the best ever. And that's what, a lot of people run 106 FRs, those are in 5.56, and of course the 7.62 guns are really good too. But these guns are in 5.45, of course. That's what I wanted, because I'm insane like that. Because these are older technical data package guns, these are really pretty much carbon copies of Soviet-Afghan era guns. They have a few differences from the AK-100 series, which is down here, and we can zoom in here and take a look at that. Okay, so we've zoomed in here a bit, and we got the Bulgarian guns on the top and the Russian guns on the bottom. These two bottom guns are that's an SGL-31 and an AK-102 conversion from a Sega. So they're both Russian, and they have a few features that make them different from the earlier Bulgarian guns. Ooh, spooky season. Okay, so the two AK-74s are centered up in the middle here, and like I said, the Bulgarians had an older technical data package, so they're really going off of the 70s and 80s era guns, which makes them really great for doing like a Soviet-Afghan build like I've done here. This, of course, came with plastic furniture, which I've put wood on. Furniture is not a great indication of whether it's an AK-74 or an AK-74M because furniture can be swapped around quite a bit. You see both rifles with all kinds of furniture, and it's really not a reliable source of whether it's an AK-74 or an AK-74M. The 100 series guns that I have over here, this is Russia's attempt to kind of get into the export game, especially the 102 here, famously used in Metal Gear Solid 4 in the intro scene. Russia, now that it wasn't, vehemently opposed to the West anymore, could sell Kalashnikovs in 5.56, and that's exactly what they did. This gun in rifle form, in 5.56, is the AK-101. So they were really trying to take advantage of exports. A lot of people liked the 7.62 rifles, so they made those for export as well. And they kind of just jazzed up the AK line. The AK-100s obviously had the iconic black plastic furniture that you can see here on the 102. And when I was a kid, they were the new fancy AKs, the newest that Kalashnikov had to offer. Now, of course, they've gone to the AK-12 and other rifles that are newer and supposedly better, but this is the kind of aesthetic rifle that I grew up with. Okay, we've zoomed in a bit more here to just the 74s. This is like I mentioned, a Sega imported as a SGL-31 by Arsenal USA. It's not the side folder. The side folder would be the SGL-3194. I may have it converted to be a side folder later if I feel like it. Then it would be really an AK-74M, but it doesn't have the side folding stock. But anyway, let's just go from the buttstock all the way to the front and talk about the differences between these two guns. So the biggest difference is going to be the stock pin. So the Bulgarian guns, including the crank up here, are going to use a 4.5 millimeter stock hinge pin. For those who know what that is, it's basically that pin right there that the stock hinges on. It's 4.5 millimeters. A lot of people think that that's the Bulgarian pattern, but actually that's just the old Russian pattern. The new Russian pattern, like on this 102 conversion, is a 5.5 millimeter pin. So all your KUSA stuff, the Vichaz, all the AK-100 series guns are going to have a 5.5 millimeter stock pin. That's really the biggest difference. You can't really tell that from the outside, though. The biggest tell, I would say, on the right side of the gun is, you notice this Sega has a smooth top cover. It's not ribbed for her pleasure. The Bulgarian gun has a ribbed top cover, a la AKM. So it's thinner and it's got ribs, and this one is thicker and it does not have ribs, much like the Sega imports. They used the 100 series 100 series top covers. So on the left side of the rifles, the biggest tell is going to be the optics rail. So obviously we have two different optics rails here. Traditionally, though, the AK-74 is not going to have an optics rail. Some of them did, but most of them did not. And almost all of the AK-74Ms did have an optics rail. Now, of course, my rifle was built in the 21st century, so they put an optics rail on it, but the real deal would probably not have one on there. Moving up, we have another big difference. I guess it's not really a big difference, but I'm going to use my cock to point it out. There's something missing from the Bulgarian gun. It should be right about here. And it's this. That's what's called a bump rivet, and that is present on the AK100 series. It kind of helps the rifle, excuse me, it helps the bolt go into battery a little bit easier. I think that's what the point of it is, but it's not really present on any other rifle other than the Segas in the U.S. So that's a dead giveaway of any like actually Russian-made 100 series guns. And up front, well, you know, there really isn't a whole lot to point out. There are a few design changes concerning the front sight post. Like you can tell the casting or whatever is a little bit different between the two. But they are pretty much the same. Now, of course, the gun on the bottom here, the Sega, is an import. And the AK-100 series guns generally had the barrel population pieces, i.e. the gas block and the front sight post. Those were generally dimpled, unlike this particular rifle, which means that they're pressed on, and then I might roll in a picture here. But essentially they're just kind of crushed. They're crushed in certain places, making little dimples. So that's how the 100 series guns, like the military guns, are put together. This gun, however, is just pinned like a normal AK-74. Final difference is going to be on the inside, and that's the piston head. So the piston head is solid on a 100 series gun. They obviously have rings on basically every other AK has rings around the piston. But the Segas are completely solid like that. So that's another giveaway if you're able to like see the inside of the rifle, which if it's just a picture you wouldn't be able to, but if you're looking at a Sega, that's a genuine Russian part right there. So that's pretty much it, guys. I'm sure I got some details wrong. There's always somebody who's more autistic than me in the comments. Just let me know any details that are inaccurate. I just got this build back from M13 Industries. You're going to see it a lot more on the channel, so stay tuned for that. It is a legit Sega 102 conversion. And this video is brought to you by Greg's Grips. This is definitely an American-made 1911 with actually American-made Carlo Walnut Double Diamond grips made by yours truly. Available at gregsgrips.com. Also, Hudson H9 or Daniel Defense H9 grips are available too. If you have one of those and you want to beautify your Daniel Defense H9, I make walnut grips or any other kind of wood. Just send me a DM and I'll get you hooked up.
Nice grips. Oh.
Oh.